Hey, I'm just gonna quickly do a 3.3k Bloodseeker replay analysis. I'd already done this earlier today, but the audio was kind of funky, so I'm gonna do it again. But this time, I've already seen it once, so I'll try and go through it a little bit faster. The first thing I wanted to say is that when you start the game, you should look at what sort of lane you're probably going to play against. Like in this case, you're going to be laning against a Pango plus either Kotal or Snap, and these are both heroes with low base damage, or the supports have low base damage. And Pangolier is 54, and he never really buys damage items because he's going to be rushing javelins and not stat items, and he doesn't get phase boots or anything like that. So. There's no really any need for Slippers of Agility. You usually buy this to push 3 extra damage to try and contest CS a little bit better. You should probably just buy a Ring of Protection, which is basically the exact same cost as this, and it's going to help you a lot against the harass of one ranged hero, plus it nullifies lucky shots, my armor reduction, plus Pangolier mostly does physical damage either way. And the other thing is, if you do want to kind of buy slippers, you should probably buy a circlet because Bloodseeker is the sort of hero that can pivot towards a bracer instead of a Wraith Band. So you can get rid of 2 of these items and get a bracer. I mean, a circlet instead. But this is a pretty fine build. I would probably buy 1 Tango and 1 Salve instead of 6 Tangos on Bloodseeker because you do have a little bit of slow regen with the Blood Rage. It's usually when you get pushed out of lane completely, like you get bursted down to low health and you can't regen up because you're scared to sit in lane. Then you salve up and then use your Q to slowly regen. Um, the first mistake is that, well, apart from the itemization, is that you use this W too early. You should either use it 3 seconds before the rune spawns so that it forces them to either take damage or give you the rune. Use it at 6 seconds because there's a 2.9 delay, right? And the other problem is the way you use it is not really efficient on the area because you want to use it to block the Kotal's escape path. Like you want to use it in this sort of area so that the Kotal is forced to walk up the cliff towards you and Ogre and take a lot of harass damage, or you force out his W or something like that. The way that this W is placed, Kotal's on the edge of it. The way he leaves the W is the direction he wants to go anyway, and it's definitely not going to hit Pango, and it doesn't secure the rune. So this is just a bit of a waste. It's just bad placement. Now you lose the rune fight here. That's fine. Do have a lot of armor, so you can trade into them pretty easily. Right now, if I go this build, I would ship in a salve immediately. So when you're trying to CS like this, you use your W very nicely here to secure the range creep. But I would drag the creeps back a little bit more. Like when you're aggroing the creeps back, I would aggro them back even further after. Like right now, I would drag it back a little bit more, get a little bit of harass on the range creep as well. So here I would just hit this once and then put down my W. Yeah. But the only problem is that if you're going to use W this frequently for some last hits that you don't really uh, that you can secure with your right clicks anyway, it's going to push in the wave quite a lot, and then it's going to make it slightly awkward to play. Like right now, this W is kind of a waste because there's no range creep to secure with it. There's no way you're going to hit either of these heroes because they're not slowed or stunned or anything. It doesn't force them off any CS. All it does is push in the lane, which is not ideal. You kind of want to push in the lane, and then they have a double wave on the tower, and then you put your W in a way so that Pangolier is forced to miss last hits, or when your Ogre is here, you can like stun into a silence or something. Don't just use your W, just randomly, because it's never going to do damage in lane. Because like look, they can just walk out of it. Like it takes 3 seconds. Anyone can walk out of it unless they're slowed by something else. Magic Wand is kind of a waste in lane. This sort of lane, at least, where they're just going to be trying to slowly chip you down. Main purpose of Magic Wand is in difficult lanes where they're going to be diving you under the tower quite a lot, and then you pop a 21 charge and you turn around and get some kills that way. It's usually for when you're losing the lane or you're playing against some Bat Rider, Bristleback. These sort of heroes, they use their spells relatively slowly, and you are like advantaged during the lane anyway in terms of last hitting and trading. So when the stick gets to 10, you can just pop it and you can just use it as a form of sustain, and it's not really it's not really the burst heal you need. So Wanda's kind of bad. I would get Orb of Venom instead if I'm playing against a melee hero that I want to pressure, or I would get I would finish my Wraith Band, or I would get Gloves of Haste. And Gloves of Haste is a really, really good item. Almost everyone buys it on carries. They just buy 1 or 2. Arteezy gets 2 on like Spectre and Wraith King and all these heroes, almost everyone buys the Gloves of Haste on Bloodseeker because his attack speed isn't great and you buy phase boots. So they go on you here. He's already used this thing on Pangolier, so you should probably focus Pangolier because Kotor has 333 move speed, and Pangolier has no Q for the next 12 seconds, and he's slowed already by Ignite. And yeah, I think you could have killed him if you had Uv instead of this wand, which is not really that useful. The other item I would have bought is Raindrop, just for some mana regen to block the Kotal's damage. When you're just standing around in lane trying to deny more, like you have 3 denies, there's been a lot of creeps that you could have denied. Looks like you just don't go for them very often. It's actually very important to get level advantage in this sort of lane. Like if you can get 6 before Kotal gets 6, it's just free kills. So try and deny more, and it gives you health as well when you get the Blood Rage off on them. Here you should drag the creeps back, and then after you drag it back, you should just keep dragging it back as well. That's the main thing. You like drag it back once, but then you keep Kotal in range of the CS anyway. Like here, you can drag back while your ogre's going for something. Just helps you pull the creeps out of XP range of the enemies. Like here, you can deny that one creep before you last hit. This one would have given you an extra 10 gold, but you know it's not a big deal. You shouldn't have bought this clarity in lane because there's not really a good time to use clarities in lanes. You usually just buy mangoes if you really need it. I would get chainmail before boots for speed just because this isn't really the sort of lane where you need to run around and hit people. It's just mostly you get 5 armor, make sure Pango doesn't burst you. Or you can get some gloves of haste for some attack speed to do your jungling, whatever you need, or your raindrop obviously to try and stop that from happening. When you put down your W again, just try and place it a little bit deeper so that it covers the escape path. Don't just put it on top of them because then it will never hit. If you force them to walk into you, that is also fine, right? So just think about where you want to position your W. In this sort of situation, I would drag the creeps back a little bit more and start using my salve already. Instead, you salve here where the Kotal can W and cancel it. Just drag the creeps back so that you're in a sort of position that you can last hit and they can't harass you back. If you ever find it difficult to aggro off the enemies in your lane because they're missing, you can aggro is global range, so you can just look at somewhere else, you click them, then you click back to your lane, and you go backwards. Here, while they're doing this, you do a pull, which is good because you stack it as well. But when you grab these creeps, try and grab it into here so that if a fight happens, the creeps are still fighting each other and it denies the wave, right? But instead you lose a full wave of farm here. Like see under the tower you're going to miss 3 creeps. You could have had it so that the creeps are still fighting over here. So by the time you're done fighting, you can come back and get the XP at the very least. You get a double kill here, I think, with the rupture as well. This is a nice rupture, but like look how much CS you miss because you didn't drag it over. Like you could have gone extra 5 CS and it would have helped you tank these creeps. You would have farmed the stack. Minute 7 you want to farm the jungle anyway because you want your neutral items. A lot of them are really good for Bloodseeker, like the Iron Talon, the PMS, Faded Brooch, obviously, stuff like that. Anyway, while the enemy are dead, you should probably use your clarity. This is really your one shot to do it. You buy an Orchid this game. I wouldn't really recommend it because the thing about Orchid is it sounds good on paper against Storm and Anti-Mage, but you already kind of counter Anti-Mage with your Rupture anyway, and he's not going to have an answer for it until level 15. And by the time he's level 15, he's going to have Manta, so the timing sort of lined up in such a way that Orchid doesn't really give you a timing that advantages you against Anti-Mage any more than Rupture already does. And it's not great against Storm because 1, it's kind of hard to click on him when he goes in, and 2, he's also going to be able to buy Yules very easily. And the other thing about Orchid is it's just not a very good item on Bloodseeker. Like this hero needs BKB, he needs like some sort of farm speed item. Orchid doesn't really give you much. It gives you 30 damage. It's good on in hero because it gives 25 in as well. So it's like 55 in and a lot of attack speed. Bloodseeker just needs like Maelstrom and you know that sort of item. It helps him farm. Then you tank up with BKB. You just run at people. So yeah, like I wouldn't get Orchid this game. I would have just got Yasha into Maelstrom into you know Basher, BKB, and run around hit people in the face. Right now, you know, you're winning by a lot. You have 3 kills, 54 CS a minute 10-ish. By the way, if you are going to go Orchid for whatever reason, make sure you buy the components that are useful to you. Like, for example, on the Orchid, you can get 2 quarterstaffs for the same amount of gold as 1 Oblivion staff, and it was going to give you 20 damage and 20 attack speed, right? Against this, which gives you 10 in, which you don't really use, and 1.25 mana regen that you don't really use. So, anyway, they go on you here. You aggress up against the Storm, you use your Q. In this sort of situation, when the Storm is running, you should probably put your Q on the Storm and not on yourself, because then, you know, the enemies, they don't do extra damage to you. Here, you run back in for no real good reason when you're really low. It's a really bad death. Like that really shouldn't have happened. And your W again was just a really bad placement. There was no reason to put it there like that. Anyway, after you die here, you should understand that the enemy team, they have to hunt you now for a long time because the anti-mage is having a really bad game. Just came top and died. They're gonna have 5 people pushing this top tower. Basically, the idea is that the Radiant team are usually going to push the top lane because it opens up the enemy main jungle, and the Dire team are always usually going to push bot lane because it opens up their jungle. So the opposite lane is usually called the dead lane because that's where they're going to have a lot of heroes, and there's a good chance of you dying here. And you don't really want to force fights on your dead lane like this 5v5 because if you win, you push this tower, which doesn't really give you much map control because there's still a cliff here, right? But like if you take this tower, you can just walk into the jungle. They can't TP anyone in to flank you. So if you win fights here, it's not a big deal because you don't get much objectives off it. But if you lose fights here, you lose your tower and your jungle. So you want to take fights where like near bot, and you leave like your supports and your tinker to defend top with March of the Machines or whatever. So after this death, you should really just TP here and you should farm this triangle, these 3 camps with your 2 levels in W. Like I would just buy some clarities and maybe like 3 tangos, and I start jungling this and like stacking it for myself and dragging the creeps so that I'm hitting multiple camps with the same blood rights, and just generally farming a lot of items because right now you don't really have any items. Plus your Oblivion staff got destroyed on the courier. Like you really need some sort of like just being top is just not the place to be in general. And like all these fights, you know, you're gonna get kills, but again it's pointless because you don't get any objectives off it. Look, the enemy team are always gonna play near top, you can't farm properly. And the other thing is the amount of farm on the map is you should think about it as farm of a team. Like if you farm these ancients, no one else can really farm them apart from Tinker if he gets lucky. So if you farm these, the space that you are occupying here, a support can take that instead. So the overall amount of farm in the game has increased. Plus, you get to pressure the anti-mage with your Rupture. So overall, you should be playing bot right now with 4 of your team, and Tinker should be defending solo top. You should be farming Ancients predominantly, or pressuring this tower by farming anti-mage's jungle camps, or pressuring him with the Rupture. And if you do lose fights down here, it's not a big deal because this tower doesn't matter. But if you win fights, it's a very big positive for you. And the other thing is make sure you buy clarities and raindrops and stuff like that in the mid game. It's very useful. Now the next little bit is like it's fine. You don't use your Q enough when you're just jungling. Like if you're gonna kill a Hellbear, you might as well Q yourself just to make sure you're on full health. You don't use your W anywhere near enough. When you have 2 Oblivion staffs and you have 5.5 health regen, why would you not just W some Mud Golems for some easier farm? Or like you stand here and you drag these creeps into the middle and you can W 2 camps like that. Or here, again, I've already said, you can W 2 camps like this. Just try and utilize your spells in such a way that help you farm. Like even here, you can just W these creeps, you hit the tower a little bit faster. But yeah, the Gloves of Haste is really painful because it really does slow down your farming speed. Anyway, when you're not doing much, you should just farm some small camps or something. Like you run mid here for some reason. There's not really any heroes here. Like, it looks like you guys are just gonna push mid, but like you know, this is like a whole minute where you're not farming. Like these mud golems are just here. If you're waiting around for your team to push, you might as well just hit some jungle while you're waiting. Here you could have ruptured the Pangolier, just be a little bit more decisive. Like you have an Orchid, you might as well use it. Run up a hill here, which isn't great. Yeah, this is why Orchid isn't really a great item. But yeah, you should really be farming the jungle a lot more, especially the Ancients. And yeah, the only other things that I noticed, I'm gonna skip forwards a little bit here. Let's go back a little bit. Maybe to here. Okay, so this part, there are points in this game where you, like, one of the items that's really good on you, I don't know why I can't see it actually. It's really annoying. Hold on. Anyway, there was a clumsy net in the store, and you use this broom handle instead when it's really good. It cancels TPs and it's +6 all stats versus 3 armor when you already have a lot of armor. The other thing is whenever you use your Shadow Blade, you don't use your attack properly. Like here, you should just Rupture the Anti-Mage after you Orchid him, right? But you don't use Rupture on Anti-Mage. Instead, you like save it for someone. You like use it on Storm instead. You should never Rupture Storm because he's going to be ulting around anyway. The only person you should Rupture this game is Anti-Mage and Pangolier. And multiple times you save your Rupture for some reason. Just make sure you use it on Anti-Mage. It's 70% cooldown. It's not a big deal. And never use it on Storm unless it's like, you know, super necessary. The other thing is you never use your Shadow Blade attack. Like this does 175 bonus damage when you leave, when you attack the first time. Like here you use your W to break out instead of your Shadow Blade. You could have hit this Kotal and he would have taken like 300 damage because he's missing a lot of armor, right? And you could have orchided this Snapfire to stop his ult a little bit earlier, but you orchid this Storm instead, who you definitely can't kill, and you end up dying. Like you could have saved your team a little bit here by killing the Kotal and the Snapfire really fast, but instead it's just bad item usage and whatever. Anyway, next up, the other thing I wanted to mention was that you take this talent at 10. Most people, they skip it to get more levels in W because they want to farm in the mid game, and they take this talent at level 13 after the second level of ult. That's just a small thing. You take the spider legs over the... there was another item which is better than the spider legs, I think. Maybe you find it later actually, but the thing is, the spider legs are kind of overrated on this hero because you'd think that it'd be good on him because he goes fast, right? But you kind of want items that fix your weaknesses, not really make your strong point stronger. Like you already kind of max move speed without spider legs. I mean, with phase boots anyway, so you don't really need to run this fast, you know, in the fights. If it was me, I would have taken the quickening charm just for a little bit lower cooldown on my W and all that. But again, not a big deal. This game, I probably would have got the Ogre Axe before the Mithril Hammer, just for a little bit of survivability. You're not really missing damage anyway. Make sure you carry TPs and clarities the whole game. When you're pushing the tower, try and walk around a little bit more. Whenever you hit things or hit people, you have max move speed of blyatcyka, and they have like a lot of heroes that do like a single point nuke, like the Storm ult. You can't exactly change direction during the thing, and the Snapfire ult and the Ags. So like, don't just hit a tower standing still like this. Try and walk left and right so that you dodge spells that are incoming. And quite a few times you siege high ground and you just die to Storm ult. Should never really happen as Bloodseeker. You're so fast. Like, just abuse that fact. I think that's mostly everything I wanted to cover. Like, the main things to think about are usage of your W and your ult to a certain degree, and itemization. This Shadow Blade was kind of a waste. This Orchid was kind of a waste. If you are going to build it like this, you should buy some attack speed items that help you jungle. Make sure you jungle. Like, you should have twice as much CS right now. Or maybe not twice, but like you should have like at least 250 or like near 300 if you have that good of a lane and you have this many levels in W. Just buy some clarities. You farm a lot faster. It's better to have Yasha, Maelstrom, Abyssal than to have Shadowblade Orchid, because on paper, this build looks better for countering these sort of heroes, but if you're not going to walk after them, if you're going to buy Orchid early, then don't play topside, play near where Anti-Mage is going to be, like choke out his farm, or gank Storm with it, or if you're going to buy Shadowblade, make sure you hit people with it so that, you know, you just one-shot Kotal. Like, you buy items and then you don't really use them properly, so it'd be better to buy farming items which no one can fuck up, and then you just buy late game items where you can just win fights. Like, even here, you know, you didn't... use your Shadow Blade attack. Here, this was really bad. Like, if you're gonna Shadow Blade on an anti-mage, right, you know, don't try and go on him without your Rupture, because he's gonna have Manta by minute 31, so it's just kind of stupid to do something like that, because if they do have sentries, you're just gonna get zapped on by Storm. Just, like, the Orchid is not like a delete anti-mage button. It's gonna be decent until he gets Manta, and you can consider what timings people usually have, or you can click on them to check, right? Like, minute 31, he's definitely going to have Manta. So, you know, come bot, I wouldn't fight these illusions because you just lose loads of your mana. Again, when you're farming the creeps, don't just stand still like this, because Storm can zap in from Fountain and hit you here for 1,000 damage. Just weave around a little bit, make life difficult for your enemies. Again, this Quelling Blade, you should probably sell it if you're not going to use it. You should have some clarities instead, just to get some W's off. But yeah, look at this. It's been 4 minutes. In 4 minutes, Anti-Mage has farmed like 50 creeps. You farm 10 because you're just running around. It's just really worrying, you know. Anyway, not much else happens for the rest of the game, I think. There was only like one sort of little mistake where you like Rupture an Anti-Mage here instead of abyssling him, but everything else is just like, when your team are dead, make sure you don't die alone on some really bad high ground defense. But yeah, mostly this game comes down to you played the lane pretty well. You could have done a bit better if you itemized more aggressively with an Uv and Gloves of Haste or something like that and placed W better. But overall, this game came down to the mid game where you just didn't farm and you didn't play the right areas of the map. And you didn't pressure the enemy carry and the enemy cores, and you itemized in such a way that you were ganking and you fell off. And then you did fall off, and then the game's just over. So in the future, think about what items you're going to buy, what order you're going to buy them, when they're going to be useful. Early game, you just want some damage items, some survivability. Mid game, you're going to want some mobility, stuff like that. And then just think about what areas of the map you're going to farm and whether you should really use some spells to help you farm a bit more and buy some clarities and some raindrops. But that's pretty much it. I think there was one other thing, which is yeah, the neutral items, and the only other thing was don't take your talent this early. Anyway, if you want some examples of how people build a hero or play the lane, go on this website called dotaprotracker.com or dotamastery.io, and you just put in Bloodseeker and you can see every single pro player. They buy some gloves of haste and they W multiple camps, and that's how they get farmed. And then they just join fights with really early, like minute 20 something, Abyssal Blade, and they just clean everyone up. This build is really bad. So yeah, good luck.